Welcome to Pivoting to Web3 podcast, where experts break down AI, blockchain, and tech shaping our future. I'm Donna, and today's guest has insights you won't want to miss. Let's dive in.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Pivoting to Web3. And today I have a treat. This is the first time I've got somebody who's in the creative space with AI and doing some exciting work on the video side, probably on the film side in time. They're Emmy Award winning. They've been directors. They've been with Smarty Pants. They've been a lot of great places. And I'm not going to go on and on like I normally do. I'm going to introduce you to Erich Archer. And Eric, I want you to say hello to your audience and ours and give us some background exactly who you are and how you got where you are today.
Well, thank you, Donna. That was a kind introduction. It's nice to talk with you today. My name is Erich Archer, and I've been a television producer for over 20 years. And I got my start in New York, where you are,
Oh,
and loved living there. Lived there for 5 years. Got my start at a great company there, and doing a lot of sports and music and reality TV stuff, and just learned a ton. Had a great time. And then moved out to LA and did some bigger studio stuff, and then moved back to my home state of Massachusetts about like 15 years ago.
mm,
And at the time, there weren't a lot of opportunities in television in Massachusetts. And I found my way into this small nonprofit community television space that I've been in ever since. So by day, I run a little cable access TV station in on the coast of Massachusetts, and
oh.
it's fantastic. And I've been doing that for 12 years. And I've always kind of freelanced and done personal projects and stuff along the way.
So while doing the projects, you're in AI, and I was really curious when I started looking at your work and all the experience that you had. How did you end up coming into the AI space, and how does the AI end up working in film and video to actually, do motion and everything? I'm really curious about that. Can you paint a picture for us for those that are just starting to look at AI and use it and trying to figure it out?
Yeah, it was really two platforms that came out around the same time, ChatGPT, that you've probably heard of and
Mm-hmm.
use, and the other was Mid Journey, which a lot of people have probably heard of, and that's the image generator. And they came out around the same time, and both kind of struck me similarly that they were going to profoundly change my world because with ChatGPT and Perplexity, I was able to just do a lot of that pre-production rigor stuff faster, like research and ideation, treating
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT like a strategic thought partner. Like, okay, I have this project coming up. Let's plan it out, make outlines, make scripts, shot lists, all those sorts of things. I was able to do those faster, and that was evident pretty quickly. But also being in a visual medium like film and TV, when it was clear that I could now generate any kind of image, that was a profound shift where, until a couple of years ago, you had to go shoot it with a camera or buy it from
Mm-hmm.
someone who had.
Mm-hmm.
And So to be able to now generate an image it's a complete paradigm shift. I can make things from home that I could never make before. And so that's all I started doing was like, okay, well, the technology in the beginning is really simple and like doesn't do much. And so what's the simplest kind of production? And so I started with something that was modeled after the way Ken Burns makes his documentaries that are like very simple, just pictures with a little bit of movement and
Mm-hmm.
storytelling behind them. And that was that. And as the technology's gotten better and better, my ability to do it and tell stories and do more interesting camera moves and stuff like that has improved also.
So, what limitations have you seen? You've seen a lot of great advancements, but what limitations are, let's say, maybe something like you have to do a workaround, or what's your wish list? I guess is what I'm asking in reverse order.
Sure. I mean, it's still very limited. It's very limited in terms of the length of the shot that you can get out. So,
Mm.
when you take you can go from image to video now, which is primarily how I work. So I work hard to get the image I like, and then I bring it into a program that can turn that image into a video clip. And um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Help
So
me.
when you have an image and you bring it into a video clip,
Oh,
everything that you're doing
limitations.
right now, what are your limitations? What
Right,
happens? Like everything sounds fabulous and great. I didn't even know you could do some of the things that you mentioned, and some of the things that I realized that you were working on. But while working in the advancements of technology, what limitations do you kind of see?
right. Well, so there's things like realism is probably 90 to 95% the way
Mm-hmm.
there, but that extra difference can be that uncanny valley and really turn people off. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, because I didn't think I seen a little bit of something, something, and I didn't like the way it looked.
Yeah. Then that's
Especially,
people.
especially seeing people of color, African Americans. Let me just go there. It was
Sure.
looking kind of icky,
Yeah.
or you
Skin
don't get it at all, and
tones.
it's really hard to work and get the look that you want. Is that still happening?
It is. Yeah. It's getting better. The consistency around character consistency and things like
Mm-hmm.
facial features and skin tone and hair color
Mm-hmm.
and those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still very difficult. I've tried to get character consistency in a few projects, and it's still very difficult to do. There are some very technical ways you can achieve it, but for the individual creator, it's still pretty challenging. You can do it, but it's
Mm-hmm. Do you see any biases in there, like you have in the digital apps? Like when you do the digital, oh, I can't remember what a colleague of mine showed me, and it was really hard to get a lot of characters in various tones. They
yeah.
seem to naturally appear in certain populations and missing in others. Has that advanced in any way?
I think that's also getting better, and these models are getting more and more training imagery from different
Mm-hmm.
sources, so they're getting better at that, getting access to the more looks basically.
Mm-hmm.
But all you have to do is go into one of them and type something that would test its bias, and you'll see the bias. You could
Oh,
say,
really?
give me an image of a doctor and see, do
Oh,
that 10 times and see what you get back, and see if it's diverse across those 10 outputs or not. I bet it won't be, you know.
okay.
Or like I was working on a project for a company in Argentina, and so they wanted sort of they wanted the people to look Argentinian. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. Like, well, how do I even approach that exactly? Um, you know, I have to go get Google Images and try to figure out exactly what that means and be culturally sensitive uh, so it's an interesting set of new challenges in that regard.
Yeah, and there's a guest I have coming up in time in February that I think has the platform that you might need. So we really need to stay in touch.
Okay.
It really goes to where they are so you can see for yourself. I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Uh, so, so when you working in everything in the AI, do you see differences or do you have other favorite AIs that you want to share with the audience? If somebody wanted to really look at this and see what they could or could not do, is this something you could do in Canva? Let me just go on and say it. Everybody's using Canva. Does Canva
Yeah.
have this technology as well?
Canva's great. Canva is adding more tools and AI things all the time. They seem to be really invested in AI.
Mm-hmm.
I find Canva to be a helpful tool. I did some titles with it for a recent project,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it can be even helpful for visualizing ideas at some levels, especially if there are things that are sort of either text heavy or sort of look very social media like. You need them to be very infographic-y or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. You might lean on Canva more. My favorite image generator by far is Mid Journey, and my favorite video generator is Runway. And then I just still edit in Adobe Premiere like I always have. Um, And then for audio, my favorite tool is 11 Labs, which is a really, I think audio is a very underestimated component. And you can go to 11 Labs and get things like sound effects and voiceovers from all different voices. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some platforms like Udio where you can get music generated now. And so very quickly you can go to these sources and pull in these assets and make things almost like a music DJ. Where you're
Oh.
kind of like just pulling in different elements, whether it's a Google image or a generated image or a generated sound effect, and you have an idea and you mash it up and you can blend images now and like all kinds of fun stuff. So it's got a little bit more of that feel to it.
So with that feel and you have all that fun and the world is changing, where does governance fit in? Or there isn't any governance. You don't have to worry about any rules or copyrights. Or we talked about some of the good and maybe some of the bad. So can you share a little bit of the ugly? I always like to talk
Yeah,
about the
well, I mean,
ugly.
it's certainly
Is there
easier than
any ugly
ever.
to this?
Yeah, it's very easy to steal an aesthetic. You can now literally pull in an image and uh, and utilize it in ways that are, I guess, more direct than they used to be. But I think the same rules kind of apply. You have to use things according to fair use, which is not always easy to figure out, but has some sort of common sense to it. Like nothing should ever be a one-to-one replacement. You shouldn't be, stealing copyrighted material in all the same ways you shouldn't have before. However, you can now take inspiration in those same ways and level up some of your ideas and projects through some of these new techniques. That's really interesting. Like I can, in the past, I might have been inspired by a magazine cover
Mm-hmm.
and then gone and tried to make my look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can literally take a picture of that magazine cover and pull that in and be like, Mid Journey, describe this look for me,
Mm-hmm.
then generate me a photo of what I want in that look. And so,
Oh.
it's kind of amazing in that way. It's a similar process of being inspired by something, pulling that into your process and making something new. But it's actually, you're literally doing that now a little more than you used to. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So at the end of the day, what types of businesses beyond your film and those that are into the video business, does this end up moving towards anything in other areas of media?
Well, I certainly think that any organization that decides to lean into video as a mechanism for their business can do 100 times what they could have a couple years ago, whether that's develop their own original content or make 100 little videos when they used to be able to make one, or just go faster with the things that they make or analyze them better once they're made. There's so many different ways that these tools can level up your whole game at different points along the chain. So it's hard to see where they wouldn't be useful if you were trying to, use video at all.
So what's on your wish list? What do you want to work with now that you really don't see the technology there yet? What do you see coming? What kind of trends or what type of applications or observations or functionality that you've experienced and utilized where you know if technology continues in this direction, where is it going to lead us or intersect? What do you think?
Well, I think it'll be really interesting to see agents and how agents that are starting to be here, like Operator in OpenAI, like that type of agent, how it could be applied to production. Like if I have an AI agent that can help me at
Mm-hmm.
the pre-production stage, production stage, post-production stage, what are the types of things it can do? And between that and automations, which really haven't entered into my work a whole lot yet, like I met a guy over the weekend who can automate in and out of Mid Journey. So
Oh,
that's
really?
interesting. Like, okay, how far am I from automating an entire storyboard right out of the gate, as opposed to like, one shot, two shots, things like that. So I think right around the corner is like that next leap up of like either telling an agent to do it for you once you've
Mm-hmm.
figured out some parameters, um, or just having a lot more automated so that you can have all this spinning kind of around you.
So do you think the storytellers, there's a lot of, it's big. Storytelling is big. And you have these, concerts, and then you have a lot of these speaker fests, and you have these storyteller fests. Do you think it's going to be at a point where just about everybody's going to have it or be able to utilize it, and it be go beyond the professional arena? I mean, you've gotten awards and Emmys, and now you're doing this. Is that something that as it progresses that it'll be just like your iPhone? It'll be just like your phone, and everybody now can make a deep fake, and they can just do all these things and do a movie about their story themselves, and you don't need to produce. Do you see?
Well,
Do
I think it'll be a lot like,
you see it
uh,
going there? I'm serious.
no,
I
I
just.
believe you. I think it'll be a lot like what happened with the music industry, where a lot of individual creators became capable of breaking through releasing songs that they made in their bedroom on their computer. I think that kind of thing will start to happen with video, where individual creators that are legitimately talented and learn the tools will be able to break through with content that's incredible, merit-based, if it's good enough. And the great, like, traditional producers that have been doing it the old way, um, the good ones will continue to do well and adapt and use it in the ways that are really elevated and sophisticated. And some of them will not make it because they don't figure out how to incorporate it. Um, so it's going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot, but I think it's going to unlock an unbelievable amount of latent creativity across the world because it's been so hard to access um, creativity for people, I think, in any like meaningful, particularly professional way for most people.
Yeah.
But most people have a creative side that's just untapped. And even though I was doing creative work, I wasn't doing it like this. The technology came to me and allowed me to be able to tell stories that are bigger and faster and you know and that's true for everyone. So I'm excited for everyone that they get a shot that they didn't have before. You know what I mean? It's exciting.
So on that note, you walked right into it. I'm curious to know what is it that you can share with us that you're working on that you would have never envisioned you'd have the opportunity to work on or do.
Sure. Well, I mean, I did just have a dream come true just recently. I'd got a film studies degree 25 years ago and
Mm-hmm.
have never to this point been paid to make anything original until late 24 when an new AI company that was trying to be like a Netflix of AI content
Mm-hmm.
called
Mm-hmm.
Dreamflare AI and said, uh, you know, we'd like to engage you to make something original. And even though it was not a lot of money and only a couple minutes long, that was a dream come true for me. I mean, I felt very happy to just be working adjacent to the film industry and the TV industry out here in Massachusetts. So to be able to go home at night and on the weekends make a film that a company wanted and was able to distribute is a very exciting uh, prospect. And I made it inspired by a page in my kids' history textbook. And that history textbook, each page was a different period of history. And it would have pictures and some anecdotes about that period
Mm-hmm.
of history, but it covered like all of human history in this one book. So each page was like this just
Wow.
two-pager of history about whatever. And so that's like a creative brief on every page. And so my first one was from one page about the
Mm-hmm.
first artist 35,000 years ago drawing on cave walls in Indonesia. I just made that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I can literally just go, flip the page now and go all the way through human history and I can make anyone I want. So right now I'm
Really?
starting to chip away at one. I learned looking through this book that 3,500 years ago in Mesopotamia, the wheel was invented, but not the way that we think about it. It was a potter's wheel on its side. And 300 years later, in that same area, the wheel as we know it, attached to a cart and a donkey and everything, was invented also. But that
Hmm.
innovation happened over 300 years in that area. So I was thinking I could condense that 300 years of innovation into one person's story of the inventor of the wheel. She was a potter, and then maybe it fell off and rolled
Hmm.
away, and or something like that. But
Hmm.
like I've been now making this Mesopotamian potter's home on Mid Journey and learning about history, and it's just amazing. It's like the coolest. Like anywhere you look now, you could find inspiration.
So you communicating that to me has inspired me to think about certain areas of life where people usually might write down in a journal or maybe through therapy or maybe some foster children or people who are going through quite a bit with mental illness or children who've grown up with parents that were a little off the charts, and they talk about the writing and the creativity piece. Do you think the technology coming in play today could be utilized in the medical arena, in the neuro arena in any way? I'm just curious.
Without
Now
question.
my clinical background is like click, 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 click. I kind of was in that other area, after the
Yeah.
airline industry. So that's what. Could you think it could work? Could you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more how to use it with my own kids, and my kids are 2 to 11. I have four of them.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And you know, I can use it just calling up ChatGPT, particularly the voice. There's so many things they don't want to hear from me, but they need to
That's true.
hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so very often I'll call in ChatGPT to help me.
Hmm.
Like oftentimes it'll be like explain. Like we were going to the Museum of Science a couple weeks ago, and my
Hmm.
kids were like, oh, they didn't want to go, and I'm like, would you please explain to them why it's so cool, at the Museum of Science? And it listed off the most amazing description of the Museum of Science, and they were pumped to go after that. Or like, my youngest son, stole a candy or something like that. So I asked ChatGPT for some resources on honesty, and he gave me some tutorial videos that he could watch and hear it from someone else other than me. You know, um,
And it worked because you're not dad. It was
right,
Chat GPT. You don't know
right.
him.
Yeah, it sent me to some child psychologist on YouTube who was showing superheroes, and
Hmm.
it's like great. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there with that. I was giving a demo one day, and a gentleman with a service dog, he was trying to retire it, but was worried about separation anxiety. Perplexity was able to make a step plan with all kinds of resources for his dog, him and his dog. So, I mean, it's a general purpose tool. We all have general purpose needs and ideas, and I don't know about you, but I've always wanted to have a thought partner available 24/7 for whatever I want to,
Hmm.
explore. And that's what we all have now. It's pretty powerful stuff.
So it really enhances who you are or how you think. A lot of people think it's going to replace you and who you are. It's really going to enhance who you
Yeah,
are, how you think, and what you do, and really just give you more functionality and capabilities in production in some ways. I mean, I've been able to bang out work in some areas that I would never bang out that fast or have the information. But the way you
exactly.
prompt it or communicate with it, and if you communicate like a person, you'll get the responses that you're really looking for that'll be helpful for you to take the next step. It seems to me, no matter what discipline, industry, or sector. So what do you want to do next? Now that you've got all this great information, you've got the experience, now you've got your projects. What are you going to be working on next? What do you want to share with us that is going to pique our interest and want to make sure we follow you
Well,
and see
thanks for
what you're
asking.
doing?
Well, I'm excited to build on everything from 2024. It was an exciting year where the AI wave kind of lifted me up a little bit, and I made a number of AI video projects and a custom GPT project, and all of that work is exciting, and I'm looking forward to building on it because AI has a way of kind of compounding as you figure stuff out. You can
Mm-hmm.
apply it to the next thing, and the next thing goes faster. And so I'm kind of feeling that now going into what I've feels year two of all this. And so I'm excited to just keep pushing on the technology as far as video production goes and continuing to kind of learn what the state of the art is and how I can use it. And then also just exploring this whole new agent world that we're kind of entering into just now and thinking about, okay, well, I've figured out a lot of this from a manual perspective. Like, what about delegation now? Like, how could I'm $200 a month away from being able to tell ChatGPT to go do stuff for me. That's a pretty wild thing to think about, like book me a flight or like
Look at your flights, your calendar, your
sky's the limit.
HR department, your accountant.
And that's the first agent. Imagine when there's 100 of those. There's the marketing one or the sales one or the whatever. Like, what do you want
Yeah,
them to do for
I'm
you?
on a platform with that now that I'm playing with, and it's working pretty well.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, it really, really is. Um, so that's another one we got a parking lot, okay? I didn't finish vetting it yet. So that's two things. So I'd like to look back to something you mentioned, just for those who aren't aware. You worked on a project with ChatGPT or you built a GPT. Can you tell us a little bit about that process, if you don't mind, in building a GPT, what that means? Because that's going to be new for a lot of my audience,
Yeah,
our
so
audience.
custom GPTs are within ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT is a large language model, right? Like it can
Mm-hmm.
answer a million things about a million things, which is incredible. But what I like to do is go in, you can really easily go in and create your own custom GPT. And if you want to get kind of a primer on them, they have all kinds of third-party custom GPTs in there that you can look at and play around with for any number of things. People build them and make them available, so you can check them out if you're not
Mm-hmm.
familiar with them. But you can also really easily make them for yourself. And all you're doing is basically putting a little lens of whatever sort of size and scope you want onto ChatGPT. A set of parameters are going to sort of tell it how to behave, just like you would prompt ChatGPT, basically. So it can be as simple as like the simplest, most powerful example I could give is at my day job, we have all these documents that pertain to our organization, like our handbook, our brand guidelines, maybe our policies and procedures, or like there's a number of our contracts. And so I made a custom GPT and I put five or six of those important documents in there that just uploaded like you've uploaded a million documents, PDFs. I didn't do anything to them, just
Mm-hmm.
straight in. And the instructions for the GPT were just something like answer questions for our staff from these documents and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And so staff can go to this GPT and ask it things like, what's our dress code or what's our strategic plan or whatever. And they answer them, it answers them by retrieving it from these documents. It can go and do that. And the instructions are that simple. I mean, literally like one line.
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized that that's the starting point, I was like, okay, well, if I also have ChatGPT to help me figure out how to use these things, like, hey, ChatGPT, I want to make a custom GPT that helps me maybe organize my brain dumps in the morning. In the morning, I wake up, have my coffee, everything's swirling around, and I just want to speak it into a GPT and have
Mm-hmm.
that GPT put it into Markdown for me. Stuff like that. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
easy. Like, okay, you are a custom GPT that takes in inputs that are my spoken brain dumps, and you are going to organize my thoughts and give them back to me formatted in Markdown. And then it'll do that for you. So you can find these little areas to create these little efficiencies for yourself that are very personal, and you can start to figure out how to make them do more stuff. But it's essentially it comes down to like you can upload stuff, you can give it instructions, and you can have it search the web and use Dolly also. So however you want to mix and match those components to do things for you, you can do.
Well, I'm excited about what I have been playing with the GPTs, and thank you for explaining that to the audience. Because a lot of what we do on Pivoting to Web3 podcast is a lot of education, which that seems to be a lot of the value right now in the academia space. But I'm envisioning going forward, especially with this one platform. It's got all these agents in all these different departments and all these functionalities and capabilities. And you can get lost in there, but it works so well. And there's a couple of platforms. There's one other platform that is built on a lot of the previous testing and behavioral consumer behavior and everything. So, and that's really interesting because it kind of complements the other platform. But now you start paying all this money for all these different platforms.
Yeah.
And like you said, $200 away, you know. But at the end of the day, you just can't stop because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, this
Yeah.
will help you over here. Especially if you're like me, I'm a learner. I mean, who else is going to school at this age? I mean, I'm not a young girl.
We're
So,
all in school now,
so
I think.
yeah, so I'm like really digging. So at the end of the day, what I'm getting to is I envision this really being a place where people can make money if you've got the resources to do the platforms. I've got some other ideas, but I had to like put a lid on it. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the future in the AI. I know a lot of people have a lot of fear with it. There's good, bad, and ugly and everything, but I see more good and I don't see as much ugly. And I thank the higher power for that, or my God, or I don't know what to say on a podcast. So, but at the end of the day, maybe I have to cut this because I try to stay real neutral, but I'm a godly girl. But
By all
let me
means,
stop.
please.
Let me stop. But at the end of the day, I really think it's going to be a good time, and there's a lot of benefits to it if you have it with the right people, the right organizations, and in the right populations. And as far as governance and the different countries and everything else, I'm just hoping that everybody behaves with it. Because I can see the destruction side and it really getting out of control. That's my worst nightmare. I don't know if you have a nightmare, but that's my nightmare. Them really talking to each other, and next thing you know, something's is let's set it off. You know. Um, is there anything you want to share about what you're doing, or where we can contact you, or how you can be reached, or anything else you want to share with us?
Sure, thanks. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me Erich Archer, Erich
Hmm.
Archer, and my AI portfolio site is cgacreative.com. And you can see all my video and custom GPT work there and reach out to me if you care to, and I'll keep that updated.
Well, thank you so much for being on Pivoting to Web3, and we're shaping tomorrow together. Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Pivoting to Web3 podcast. If you're a developer, innovator, or AI expert with insights to share, or if you're looking to partner, let's connect. Visit MitchellUniversalNetwork.com and be part of the conversation. Want more content? Check out my playlist for more episodes. See you next time.